Good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Adam Bittner, digital sports producer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm here with a mobile Paul Zeise today, the mobile Post-Gazette studio. We are doing our weekly Paul Zeise video, checking in with our sports columnist on, all topics Pittsburgh sports, Steelers, Pirates, heavy today. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I apologize for being mobile, but I got to get to a couple of doctor's appointments. Unfortunately, when you get to be 52, Adam, they're really good at telling you what you can and cannot do and what you can and cannot eat. And, well, let's just say my life is about to change. My lifestyle is about to change dramatically. If I don't, I could have some problems. But that's what happens when you get to, I say on the back nine of your life, right? Once you cross 50, you're on the back nine. So that's a word to the young guys like you to take care of yourself now. Don't eat like crap and get enough sleep and all that stuff now. So when you're my age, you don't, have to do all kinds of things to alter your life.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself, Paul. We need you for these Thursday videos.
Well, I try and do my best, that's for sure. I have fun with it. And I had fun. I'll tell you, I had a lot of fun with the draft video where Chris Carter was on and Andrew was on and then you were on and then Brian Batko popped in. That was a lot of fun. So hopefully this can be as entertaining as that was.
I think it's going to be hard for it to be. That was 4.5 hours of fun, Paul, but we'll try. If you missed our draft live stream, just make sure you check that out in the YouTube archives. We reacted live to the Steelers draft on Friday night, and it was a lot of fun. With that, Paul, we're about a week out from the Steelers draft now. There's been a lot of reaction. I think we're getting into the point of overreaction to the Steelers draft class. I've seen people compare it to 1974, which had multiple Hall of Famers. I think I saw Josh Edwards from CBS says he thinks this will be an all-time great draft class. Paul, listen, I'm not saying the draft class isn't good, but are we starting to get a little out of control here in terms of the reaction to this thing?
A little. Look, here's what I'm going to tell you. I looked at the 2019 class, right? That was the class with Devin Bush and Deontay Johnson, and I think Gentry was in that draft, Isaiah Buggs. Do you know that day, that Monday, I looked at ESPN, looked at NFL.com, looked at CBS Sports, looked at all the local guys. Universally, the Steelers were given an A for that draft. Can you believe that? Looking back on it 4 years from now, Devin Bush, because of where he was drafted and, how much they gave up to get him, is one of the busts, probably one of the bigger busts in Steeler history. Deontay Johnson has been a good player for them. I don't know that he's been much more than a good player for them. Beyond those two, I mean, Gentry is I had somebody arguing with me, well, Gentry's a starting tight end. I don't know on what planet that person lives on, but Gentry is clearly not a starting tight end. So, to me, I got to be honest with you, I think people should really wait until they start deciding what they think this draft can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think these guys are good players. Don't get me wrong. I think the Steelers got good players at positions of need. I think they gave themselves a chance to succeed, but isn't the thought of an all-time draft class or I mean, I don't look at these guys and see 3 Hall of Famers, Paul. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they will be Hall of Famers, but I think it's really hard for us to sit and say here on, May 4th or whatever it is that we know that there's multiple Hall of Famers in this class. I mean, how can you possibly know that?
My favorite line is one of the guys on the Fan, my colleagues, who says that he's ready to declare Broderick. What's the first rounder's last name? It's not Thomas. Broderick Jones. He's ready to declare that Broderick Jones is the best left tackle in Steelers history. Now, think about how silly that is. But that's, unfortunately, Adam, that's what we're going to get. And guess what? In a week or so, week and a half, whenever it is, when rookie minicamp happens, right? Wait until, with no pads on and, shirts, T-shirts and shorts, wait until Broderick Jones does something athletic. Or wait until Darnell Washington does something athletic and makes a big catch. We're going to hear about that as if they won the Super Bowl and both of them are ready to be in Pro Bowlers. Unfortunately, that's sort of how we do things when it comes to the Steelers, and I just don't know that that's really the best way to do things.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, Paul. I think the better baseline is probably the 2017 draft for these Steelers, right? You got T.J. Watt in the draft. You got Juju in that draft. You got Cam Sutton. James Conner. Four good players, four contributors. I think out of that group, T.J. Watt's probably going to end up being a Hall of Famer. The other guys were just, I think, kind of good players who made impacts here. I think if you're the Steelers, that's what you're looking for, right? I think that's what you need is guys who just come in and contribute and do their jobs and fill those needs. And I don't think you have to hype it more than that. Just say they got four good players in positions and needs, and they gave themselves a chance to succeed, right?
No, I would absolutely agree. I mean, here's the thing: if you get a guy like Joey Porter, and he's a 6 or 7 or 8 year starter. Even if he's only like All-Pro maybe once or something, that's a win because he's somebody who obviously has proven he's good enough to be an NFL player, good enough to start for your team, good enough to hopefully be a part of a team that wins a lot of games. And that to me is the baseline for all of these guys. Broderick Jones, he doesn't have to be the best left tackle in Steelers history for this to be a good draft. He could be a guy who's a really good tackle for them for 10 years. And if he does that, then it's a great draft. That's a great draft pick. If you get, now that you start to look, beyond those guys, if Darnell Washington, whatever reason he dropped, if it's, turned out to be, a lot of teams missed on him and whatever, okay. Well, then that tells me that basically you've got some, like you said, good football players in this draft, which is what you're trying to do. The all-time stuff, though, is silly. For this to be an all-time draft, like you said, they have to have 3 Hall of Famers in it. And more importantly, they've had some other drafts where they've gotten a lot of really good football players out of. I mean, I don't even know that this has to be a top 5 draft to be successful. Because at the end of the day, what are you looking for from your draft? Good football players that help you win football games, whether or not they're Hall of Famers and Pro Bowlers and all that other stuff. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily relevant.
Paul, I want to get into the Buccos. We're recording this on Thursday at around 12:30. So the series finale in Tampa Bay hasn't gotten started yet. So, I mean, let's just start from the place of they lost the first 2 games. They lost the series. They did not look particularly good in doing it. I think is the bit more concerning thing. Not just that they lost, but they looked pretty bad in these couple of games. Sloppy. Does this series against a bona fide good team, unlike some of these teams they faced early in the schedule, does this series change your perception of this team at all, Paul? No, it does. I mean, again, baseball, Adam, there's ebbs and flows to it. I mean, obviously, I thought Monday's game, I thought it was just a well-pitched game by Tampa. And they were able to, scratch out a few runs or whatever and win it. Yesterday's game looked like last year's Bucs, didn't it? With the errors and the bad plays and the bad base running and the, Derek Shelton blowing his stack at the umpires and everything else. I mean, that's what we've seen over the course of too long a time. Is that kind of stuff from the Pirates, from the fact that they I hate to use the word embarrassment, right? But that was embarrassment level stuff that went on yesterday. But we only saw that probably once this year. I mean, that might be the only game I can think of where they played like a team that's just sort of embarrassing, right? And so you throw it out. Was it Clint Hurdleism? You shower it off and move on to the next day. Now, if we're sitting here next week on Thursday and recording a video, and there's 3 or 4 more of those performances, well, then obviously we'll have, something to talk about. But, Tampa down there at their home stadium, they're hard to beat. They're a team that's built for that field.
It's a unique stadium. You hear about it all the time. You know, the sight lines are a little different. The turf is a little different. The fact is there's nobody in the stands makes it's a little different. And so at the end of the day, I don't know that I put a whole lot of stock in what happened other than, you know what, they just didn't play a very good baseball game yesterday.
What's your adjusted baseline for success for this team, Paul? I had Joe on. We're doing his Tuesday mailbag videos. If you didn't see that, please check that out in the archives. But Joe was on saying he thinks a winning season is now the baseline. Just given, you know, what would have to happen. I think they can play like, you know, losing baseball the rest of the way and still have a really decent shot at a winning record. Is that where your adjusted baseline for this team is? Because I said 70 wins. You know, I'm willing to revise it up to winning season at this point. But what about you?
No, I said 75 wins. I'm sticking with 75 wins. I think people forget every year how long this baseball season is. I think they forget every year, Adam. I mean, Cincinnati was 3-24 or something last year to start, right? And they didn't they end up finishing ahead of or real close to the Pirates, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah. There's a lot of games that people don't understand in June and July and August. There's a lot of series in June and July and August. You know, I think that, you know, we're still going to see the effect of not having O'Neal Cruz's bat in the lineup every day. It's not happened quite yet. They've been hit. They've hit well, but you see, Adam, and you're a good guy with the analytics and with numbers and all those other things. You see the fact that some of these guys have been performing above their head and probably are going to come back to earth a little bit. You also see that there's a number of guys in this lineup who just aren't very good hitters. And so eventually, you know, again, that's the beauty of baseball. That's why, to me, baseball is the ultimate sport in terms of figuring out at the end of the season what the best team is. Not what the best team is in a short series, because that's what the playoffs determine. Who is the best team? In my mind, it's the team that survives 162 games, ups and downs, injuries, winning streaks, losing streaks, best players, you know, going into slumps, best players getting hot, bad players, you know, making bad plays, pitchers struggling, pitchers doing well. 162 games does not lie. I say that all the time. So I still say 75 wins is probably the high point for this team. And there's the, you know, on-pace guy. Well, I mean, they would have to then lose, you know, X amount of games and this and that, and I just don't see that happening. I'm telling you, Adam, 162 games tells the tale of who you are. And while, you know, I like some of the things that I've seen from this team, I don't think they're particularly deep. I think that the pitching staff, a couple of these guys are going to come back to earth a little bit. I think there's some big holes in their lineup that they really don't have any answer for, and I also think that who knows what's going to happen with some of their old guys, because old guys tend to get hurt. So to me, I just say I think this team at the beginning of the year was a 75-win team, which would still be a 14 game or 15 game improvement or whatever it is.
It'd be a 20 game improvement. It'd be a 20 game improvement.
Whatever it was last
62. Yeah, you're like 13 or 14. I can't do math today.
Yeah, whatever it is. You understand what I'm saying? That's still a pretty good improvement in 1 year. And then if you make another jump next year, guess what? You're like 89, 90 wins. So to me, 75 wins or more is a successful season, because that's what I believe this team was at the beginning of the season. 75 wins. And nothing I've seen to this point, despite all the glee and jumping around for joy and this might be the best team in baseball stuff, nothing I have seen suggests to me that I'm wrong when I say 75 wins is probably where they're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the thing that is causing me to adjust my, you know, expectations a little bit is that they're good. Being good at the beginning of the season matters, Paul, because then when you get to the trade deadline, if you're in contention, you don't start selling off some of those veterans. You know, I kind of said 70 wins because I thought a lot of these guys, Rich Hill, you know, Vince Velasquez, they were going to start flipping these guys for prospects and continue the rebuilding. But if they don't do that, you know, if these guys are all on the team, until the end of September, then I think that's the one thing that would cause me, that this start has caused me to revise my thoughts on, is what is the shape of the season going to look like?
Well, let me ask you a question, Adam. What do you think it would take for them not to sell off assets?
I think if you're within 5 games and you make multiple dump trades, Paul, people are going to be mad. After what they've been through, I think that's you're taking all the goodwill that you've built up in this first month and throwing it away with a lot of people. If you say, we're not even going to try and hold on to these guys that we signed because we're going to trade them for a few, B or C level prospects, which, I mean, you're not getting like, the next coming of Bryce Harper for Vince Velasquez. You know what I mean?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Adam. I think people are going to be very disappointed because I think unless they are legitimately contenders, legitimately in like wild card position or a division position, if they're a couple games out, they will rationalize that they're not really ready to win, that they're a year ahead of schedule, and they will move the Rich Hills, the Carlos Santanas, the Velasquezes. They will move them and get prospects. There's no doubt about it. Now, if they are in, first place, they're a game out of first place, whatever, maybe I could see them holding on to those guys. But here's the other thing, Adam, you got to remember. They've got some younger prospects that are sitting down there waiting sort of in the wings. I'll be honest with you. That would be their way of returning to goodwill. If you move Rich Hill and bring up, what's his name, Quinn Priester or whatever his name is, right? You do some things like that where, hey, we're moving these guys to make space for some of the younger guys. I mean, that'll be something there that I would tell you would get people maybe back on board really quickly.
Paul, I think you set me up well because I think the catchers are the first guys we really want to talk about, right? Endy Rodriguez, Henry Davis. Is the Austin Hedges signing already a bust? Considering he was supposed to be useful now, Paul, not at the end of the season. He's supposed to be giving way to those guys so they can get playing time and kind of be more of a mentor figure. But, I mean, he can't hit his way out of a paper bag.
But we knew that about him. We were told, you're going to bring him in because he's a guy that's going to work with the pitchers and he's going to get these young pitchers to be better and he's a great defensive catcher and all this other stuff. And when people say that, I look at them like they have 3 heads. If the guy can't hit, if he's basically an automatic out every single time he comes out, I don't give a rat's ass how many defensive metrics you're going to give me about how good he is. The bottom line is he's not good. And I'm not shocked by it. That's the bottom line. I'm not shocked by it because this is who he is. So to me, I think if you look at, again, that's a position I would have already brought up all the young guys, basically just said, the hell with it. We're going to let these young guys sink or swim. But there is this idea, and it's not just in the Pirates organization, but they have taken it to extremes where you have to have this really good defensive catcher, right? Or else your pitching staff isn't going to be able to survive. Well, we've had good catchers here, and guess what? The good catchers haven't translated into the pitchers being any better. So to me, I think you go and you go with the youth movement, let the younger guys come up and play, and admit you made a mistake here. Admit that the defensive metrics or whatever you're using to try and justify the signing. Let's try now to come back to reality and say, we made a mistake. We're going to replace this guy, and we're going to fix this mistake.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my biggest, pet peeves in baseball right now is this notion that, it doesn't matter if the catcher hits. It's almost like we're allowing them to be pitchers. Didn't we get rid of pitchers hitting because we didn't want to watch that anymore? I mean, I liked the pitcher hitting because I thought it was, a good product, in terms of the strategy and all that. But that's why we did it, because we were sick of watching pitchers hit. And now it's almost like some people want to just give any catcher the excuse that if you're a good defensive catcher, it doesn't matter what you do at the plate. I'm not saying you got to be like Buster Posey here, but like you got to at least hit 200, right, Paul?
I mean, you got to hit the ball. You've got got to actually, and the other thing is you can't be bad outs all the time. That's the other part. If you're hitting 200, right? If you're hitting 200 and you're, at least some of your outs, you're moving guys over and you're sacrificing or whatever. You're moving guys over. You're not, obviously sacrifice doesn't count as an at bat, but you're hitting the ball the other way. So you're out, you're still moving guys and you're not striking out the worst possible times. You're not hitting into double plays. I mean, that's what is really, really concerning. It's not just bad. He's not just bad at hitting. He's bad at making outs too. And that to me, you cannot have that in your lineup every day. It kills you. And you, that's the thing about the Pirates. Like you said, you basically took a pitcher out of your lineup and added somebody who hits worse than most of your pitchers did.
Yeah. It's a real pet peeve is that these guys just get scholarships as long as they're all right with their mitt. Like, I'm sick of that notion. I've been making fun of it on Twitter all week, and I'm going to continue to until people start to say, hey, maybe this guy does actually suck, or maybe he gets better. Maybe if he gets up to that 200 mark, I can listen to the argument, but he is not there yet, and he's just not contributing enough offensively to a team that needs offensive contributions. Paul, what did you think of that Wander Franco hot dog play on Wednesday night?
Listen, I hate to sound like old man yelling at a cloud, and I'm not trying to be that. Dude obviously is really good. Really good. And if his manager's okay with it, I guess I got to be okay with it too, right, Adam? But I'll tell you this. It's so unnecessary, A. B, if I was one of his teammates, I'd go up to him and say, listen, my man, if you ever do that and you drop the ball when you do your little flip thing, or the flip thing causes you to throw somebody to throw it out, throw the ball late to first base and the guy's safe. After the game, I'm going to take you on the parking lot. I'm going to beat the hell out of you because that's a selfish play, period. You're putting the team at risk by doing that. Now, there's this notion that, if you say something like that, your old man yells at cloud and you hate fun. I love fun, Adam. And here's the thing. Okay, he did it. He pulled it off. He threw it, I think it was Brian Hayes. Wonderful. But if he ever drops the ball, one time, if he ever drops the ball, he should never hear the end of it. And he's going to. It's going to happen, Adam. It's going to happen because he apparently does it a lot, and his teammates came to his defense. Oh, he does it all the time. I've never seen him drop the ball. Watch. Watch what happens when he tries to do it. There's a really fast runner, right? He catches it and does that little scoop thing, and he realizes the guy's running faster, and there's a little bit of pressure on him now to catch it and throw it over there. Watch when he makes a mistake. He should never hear the end of it. But again, if you're good enough to do it, and your manager's okay with it, I guess we got to be okay with it too. But I know if I was his teammate, I would not be okay with that ever. Especially a team like that, like Tampa, that's really trying to break through and win a World Series. To me, I'd be like, listen, my man, you're making it about yourself, it ain't about you.
Yeah, I'm all for fun. I'm all for the fun celebrations. We've seen Andrew McCutchen with the sword and the jacket in the dugout, and a lot of teams are doing that stuff after home runs now. I'm very much in favor of that, outside the lines kind of stuff, and celebrations between the lines. Like I like seeing these guys get fired up when they get a big out, and I like the notion of like showing guys up, kind of like diminishing because. We need some excitement in baseball, Paul, and I'm all in favor of that. But once it gets, I think once it affects the game itself, that's where, I think it is questionable.
Yeah, listen, if you get a big RBI in the 8th inning, you should celebrate on second base, right? Your teammates should celebrate. You hit a big home run, there should be a little whatever celebration, right? You punch somebody, you're a pitcher, and you punch somebody out in a big spot. Hell yeah. You should be excited. I'm okay with all of that stuff. I'm okay with bat flips, actually. You know what? If you hit the ball 400 feet, you deserve to be able to flip the bat if you want to. But to me, when it's inside the lines and you're playing a game and you do something like that, and I'll give you a great example, Adam. Do you remember when Antonio Brown was celebrating, dancing, and this and that and the other thing. And he got penalties. And people say, well, you know, the penalties don't matter, blah, blah, blah. The Steelers special teams are. And then there was the one where he got a penalty and the guy ran it back to like the 10-yard line or so. I don't know if you remember that. And I basically said, if you keep poking the bear like that and tempting fate, guess what? You're going to cost your team eventually. And it's the same concept. Okay, Antonio Brown's really good. He was scoring touchdowns. His penalties hadn't led to any problems for the Steelers in the special teams. You know, the kickoff, the ensuing kickoff. But guess what? When it did, it eventually did, and it almost cost them a game.
Yeah, I think that's inbounds for criticism. I don't think that's old man yells at cloud territory. But some people can disagree, and that's what's fun about these debates, Paul. But hey, I'm going to let you run to your appointments, and thanks for stopping by. I think this was, a nice return after a week off, because we did the draft streams last week.
No, I appreciate it. Next week I'll be in a studio somewhere sitting down, and hopefully I'll be able to wax poetic about the Pirates winning, 5 out of 6 after losing 2 in a row. How about that?
Yeah, we'll look forward to that, Paul, and we'll look forward to more Steelers talk as well. Maybe the hype will start to die down a little bit, right?
Well, no, it'll start to actually be worse because minicamp is starting. And rookie minicamp, of course, every time somebody does something at rookie minicamp, we'll have all the Steeler writers over there. Oh, my God, you should see what now Washington just did. He might be the greatest tight end ever. That's how we cover the Steelers, at least until the game starts.
Well, I guess we'll have that to chew on then, Paul. But thanks for stopping by, and to everyone else, thanks for enjoying the video, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it on Apple Podcasts, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For 6 months of digital access to post-gazette.com for just $6, click the link down in the description.